This is a machine-seated hip abduction with a forward lean, biasing the upper glute max and glute medius. You will see people use different body positions on this machine because changing your torso angle can slightly shift which glute fibers do a majority of the work. The seated hip abduction with a forward lean helps shift the line of pull to better emphasize the upper portions of the glute max as well as the glute medius. And even though we can emphasize certain muscle groups over others, the individual glute fibers cannot be isolated, so a large part of the glute complex are still working together to complete this movement. This exercise has a shortened position bias, meaning that the movement feels the hardest and heaviest when the legs are pushed out wide, where the glutes are fully shortened and contracted, and it becomes easier as the legs return back inwards towards the body's midline. To set up, sit on the abduction machine and use the handle below the seat to adjust the starting width so that your knees are as close together as possible. Scoot slightly forward on the seat so that your knees press against the front edge of the pads, and place your feet securely on the footrests. From there, hinge forward from the hips by about 20 to 30 degrees and grip the machine in front of you for stability. Even though we are leaning forward, we want to keep our back straight and neutral. So keep that chest tall, look straight forward, or maybe even slightly up. That forward lean should come from the hips and not from collapsing and rounding through the back into a turtle shell position. For each rep, think about driving the knees out and leading the movement with the knees rather than the feet. Imagine driving the pads apart by squeezing the glutes. Press out wide only as far as your range of motion allows while keeping your torso stable. The hips and spine should remain relatively stable throughout the set without rocking, swinging, or shifting. At the top, control and pause very briefly, then slowly return to the starting position, almost like you're resisting the inward pull of the machine to maintain constant tension on the glutes. Lower the knees back towards that center in a slow, controlled manner, stopping just before the weight fully touches the stack. Throughout the movement, maintain a nice neutral torso and avoid excessive momentum out of the starting position. A lot of the times this is very apparent if your torso is moving around a ton, so you'll lean forward to drive momentum and drive the knees out, and we want to avoid that. It is so important to keep the core engaged to help keep your torso in a stable position that's not really moving at all. Think to look slightly up, core engaged, and squeeze the glute to pull the knees out wide. Overall, the motion should feel controlled, deliberate, and driven from the glutes. One of the most common mistakes by far is allowing the chest to fall down and in, creating a rounded upper back, that turtle shell. This usually happens when you start looking down and that back starts to round instead of hinging at the hips. To fix this, keep the chest tall, look forward at the machine or slightly up just above it, and maintain a neutral spine throughout the set. Another mistake is driving the movement from the feet instead of the knees, which can create unnecessary stress and forces at the knee joint. Just focus on pressing the knees through the thigh pads and letting the knees lead the motion. And lastly, you want to avoid excessive torso movement or bouncing out of the bottom and using momentum to move the weight. This shifts the work away from the glutes and reduces tension where we want it. Slow down the tempo, especially on that eccentric return, and let the glutes control the movement. If you notice you're doing this and using momentum, reduce the weight and focus on clean, controlled reps.